Hi, everyone. Thanks and welcome to the 2024 Technology Trends for Hospitality webinar. My name's Jordan Foord. I'm the Chief Product Officer of ResDiary, and I'm very excited to be joined today by three panelists. We've got Assaf Stizki from Restoke, Camden
Well
McKenzie from
pronounced.
foundU. Oh, I got it. Great. And Ramona Combrink from Automate. Um, so I'm from ResDiary. Some of you may have heard of us. We're a table and reservation management platform that help restaurants basically optimize their dining rooms. I'd like to hand over to begin with to the panelists. So Asaf, do you want to introduce yourself and talk about what you do?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you for having us. Excited about this one. So my name is Assaf. I'm co-founder and CEO of Restoke. Restoke was founded about 4 years ago here in Melbourne. And the aim of Restoke was to enable restaurants to be on top of all of their data. Sorry, just gonna fix my screen. All of their data and all of their operations in one go, in one central console. And today we are in Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, and US as our main markets. Yeah, that's us.
Great. Camden.
Hi everyone, good to be on here with you. So Camden and I head up our partnerships team at foundU, and we're a workforce management and payroll software that's been built specifically for frontline workforces like hospitality, and just looking at doing things a little bit different. So improving kind of the staff experience with systems compared to what they're typically used to. But yeah, really excited for today.
Great. And last but not least, Ramona.
Hi guys, awesome to be here with all of you. My name is Ramona. I'm from a company called Automate. I'm the founder, and we've been running predominantly in New Zealand. We've just moved into Australian, Macau, and US markets, and we're looking at the Dubai and UK market. We're basically a robotics firm. We do physical robots as well as virtual robots, and we empower it with AI technology to bring really great solutions to the market, restaurant specific. Thanks, guys.
Great, thanks, Ramona. So today we're going to be covering so 4 or 5 questions, and then we'll have time for a Q&A at the end. So in the meantime, if anyone has any questions, please hit that Q&A tab down the bottom, and we'll get to your questions in the next sort of 45 minutes or so. To start, I'd like to sort of kick off with where Australia and New Zealand sits in the transformation maturity curve. So I'll put it to the panelists. Where would you place the Australian and New Zealand hospitality industry on that maturity curve for digital transformation, and how does it differ across markets like the UK, US, Asia, Americas? Asaf, do you want to start with that one?
Sure. That's a very interesting one. So, in my view, I think Australia is one of the more advanced places when it comes to adapting new technologies, and there's quite a few drivers to that, and I'll speak about them in a second. If we're looking abroad to markets like the US and UK, we see a lot of fragmentation within those markets, a lot of localities and trends that are within those localities, but nothing that kind of unifies the entire market, which creates a lot of voids. Not even mentioning, their weird banking system that's not enabling other integrations to happen. I think that the main drivers around that is that in the Australian market, we're early adopters of a lot of technologies. If looking at Uber at the early days, I think Australia was one of their biggest growing markets in the world. We were really, really excited about that. And I think past COVID, we've seen a lot more expectation in the Australian market for technology. So we're seeing new businesses jumping in before they even open the door. They will gather all the tech stack that they need to go to war with. If we're talking about great platforms like foundU, to manage all of my team and HR in one place, all the way to solution like ours, which is more back of house and how we're running forward. So there's a lot of value in those in that environment, and I think we're doing a great job in Australia as far as the community of the tech. Everybody knows each other. Everybody's helping each other to grow, and as a result, I think the Australian market's gonna gain quite a bit in the very near future.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I think one of the upsides of being a small market that's demographically homogenous with some of those other big US and UK is people will try and test things in the Australian market, but then as a result, we've sort of adopted and embraced this experimental mindset. So we kind of expect to be at the front of things.
Yeah.
Ramona, what are your thoughts?
I have to agree with them. And one of my other businesses is recruitment. So we do a lot of worldwide recruitment. And I think, what Assaf was mentioning, the factors that Australia and New Zealand are facing from an early adoption is the fact that we're at the bottom of the earth. And, we've had some challenges of COVID with our government's immigration policies that have made it very constricted for our workforce. So I think it's been a case of adapt or die. And what we're seeing is businesses coming forward and just taking on this adaptation and utilizing the resources they have with partners, as this group is showing. We're here to help and we want to help. And I think that's the beautiful thing with our technology is we're natural collaborators. And I think New Zealand and Australia is definitely hitting above its weight as per usual. I've just been at the Age conference as well as the Las Vegas conference. Realistically, we are far more ahead from a buy-in from stakeholders, and that we're seeing across the board.
Yeah, great. Okay. If no one has anything more to say on that topic, I think we've got a meatier one to move on to. I wanted to talk about the role of data in hospitality decision making. So, following on from sort of what we've talked about, as Australian New Zealand venues become more and more advanced in the way that they use technology and systems, so comes a greater amount of data, both in sort of volume and fidelity. How significant is data, to our panelists, how significant do we think data-driven decision-making is in restaurants? And then further to that, how is AI changing that landscape of key metrics? I thought, Camden, you want to have a go at that one?
Yeah, thanks, Jordan. So I think making data-driven decisions is crucial in any industry. But specifically within hospitality and restaurants, I think, with some of the challenges that we've seen emerging in the last few years in terms of, staffing shortages and everything that comes, with that, being able to make data-driven decisions has become more and more crucial, both at the staffing level. So being able to kind of use data to prioritize, what staff do I focus my retention efforts on, who's kind of showing up for shifts more regularly versus, staff that are no showing and things like that, who's progressing through, employment journeys and has kind of goals and things like that they're working towards. So it's very, very powerful in being able to kind of prioritize what staff that you're spending those retention efforts on, and then I think on the operations side of things as well, it's equally as crucial. Being able to feed all of that kind of data, whether it's kind of wage data from foundU, hours data, cost of goods sold, etc., into a system like Restoke, which you can use to be far more kind of proactive and get ahead of the curve and look at kind of predicting, staffing needs, maintenance, etc. But that's Assaf's baby, so I'll let him speak more to that kind of side of things and the AI side of things. But I think it's absolutely crucial using data in your operational and also your kind of growth decisions as well.
Yeah, great. Assaf?
Yeah, you're 100% right, Camden. So I want to give a bit of a higher view on things and what we've seen in the past 3 years. Again, COVID pressed everything against the wall, and we had to stay with what's working. And generally in our industry, and that's to anyone who's listening right now, right? Generally in our industry, there's a lot of the creative types, right? They're entering into that world out of passion, out of love for food, out of love for community, and they tend to overlook the data a lot of the times, right? So we've seen a lot of businesses that were good before COVID, but after the market has stressed them, to the extreme, we're seeing the more pro operation that are staying afloat, right? Those ones who could ask themselves the right questions of what is my cost of goods, what is my labor looks like, what is my overheads, and how am I going to steer the ship towards profitability and sustainability, right? And now we're at a point where a lot of the businesses will have to make the change, will have to ask themselves the questions of what those parameters look like in my business. And going to the first question, I think we're in a very good position at the moment in the technology realm to provide those data points to those businesses without being an expert, without getting to the accountant every quarter and try to identify why tomato smashed my food cost, right? So, and then comes the whole AI thing into that. And I don't know if you know, but Restoke was an AI company before it became a buzzword. But what it really means, to simplify, so we have ChatGPT and OpenAI and all of these things. What it really means for restaurants at the moment is the ability of platforms to take massive amount of data, analyze it, and simplify it for them so they could understand it. And on the other side of it, give them the reports that they need without, complications. So there's a lot of things we can do for those businesses really easily, really approachable. And I think it's time for those businesses to start asking the right questions. If they don't know which platform to find, ask Google or go to their accountants, or whoever needs it. But that's the live or die standard at the moment as we see it.
Do you think, Assaf, that we're going on 12 months since ChatGPT, I think 3 exploded into the consciousness and started hallucinating everywhere. Do you think that has helped or hindered the hospitality industry's understanding of how AI can help, particularly in the context of what you guys are doing at Restoke?
It's hard for me to say as a direct solution for consumer if that helped. I've seen some people are doing crazy stuff with it, like doing their procedures and asking questions. But as far as direct effect on that, I'm not sure. I think it's the ability of platform like ours and others to really understand the reality of, what a product is, how it's affecting their profitability and efficiency, and giving them actionable insights into that. So it's a bit different to the buzz AI that the consumer is seeing right now. But there's a lot of benefits that we're seeing now and a lot more in the near future.
Yeah, great. And just sort of finally on the role of data, what are some of the questions that, I'll open this to all the panelists. What are some of the questions that hospitality businesses should be asking of their data?
There's a few ones, right? So, and they're pretty simple as far as we can see them. Bottom line profitability. Is it better? Is it worse? My cost of goods, absolutely necessary to know what they are and where we're making money and where we're losing money. And one of the other biggest ones is labor, right? The Camden can testify for that, but it's a major obstacle in profitability for a lot of businesses.
Okay, Camden, how have you seen sort of hospitality businesses leap forward after asking those questions in the right way?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, labor's one of the keys, and just looking at your labor costs versus all those other metrics like Assaf mentioned. I think also if you've got multiple venues, the power and the data is being able to look at those different venues and seeing what's working, using the data. So seeing, hey, look, my profit margins are a lot higher here, or I've got staff doing more overtime here, and kind of digging into that data and seeing what's the root kind of cause for that, and then being able to kind of replicate success once you've figured out what's working, and also just being able to quickly drill down to see what's not working is the key as well. That disqualification is almost as important as the wins.
Right.
I also like to comment if I have a few minutes, Jordan.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm in between the two gents over here because I work with the physical robots in that service delivery, and we use the data to actually make those decisions. And a big thing we've noticed is, as both gents pointed out, is the lack of understanding of how much time the labor force is using to achieve certain things. And that's where we've seen a very critical benefit for robots and AI in the businesses. Is once we start putting metrics behind that. How long does it take to take a plate of food from table A to table B? How long does it take for your HR team to be dealing with staff issues, redundancies, late shift fill? When you start adding up all those time metrics and putting it together in one visual, you sit and you have real life data that you could actually use for decision making. So you may think, oh, it's 5 minutes, I'll just deal with something quickly, or I just need to pick up the phone and phone 10 people to see if someone can come in. When you start actually having drivable metrics on each of those touch points, you'll soon realize that you're in the 80-20 principle and you're spending 80% of your time doing 20% of the value.
Absolutely. That actually brings us to the next question really well. So we're going to talk about return on investment on technology investments. So what we want the panelists to answer is how should restaurants measure ROI on technology investments, especially when considering the often intangible benefits, as we've just spoken about. So, Ramona, do you have some sort of more thoughts on that area?
Yeah, look, I'll talk from, as I said, a purely robotics perspective. If we're talking a simple delivery robot in a restaurant environment, we can talk about a return of investment. A robot costs you $15 a day versus a human labor per hour. We can grind down on that. But when we actually exponentiate that into how much of your time was used trying to procure your workforce, how much are you overworking your workforce, that you have these constant, drop-offs, people resigning for no apparent reason because they're just feeling that they're getting burdened and bogged down, your return of investment all of a sudden becomes staggering. And I think, again, to my previous point, people do not realize the amount of time it takes to actually do a delivery or a service. It's seconds, but they don't realize it's over a multitude of. So restaurant industry, very simple, make a good plate of food consistently and get it out there. But the few seconds in between each shuttle becomes very, very valuable when you start adding it up. And I'll give you a quick example. We do a lot of hotel robots. People just think, oh, you're going to phone down to room reception and someone's going to walk up and bring up a plate of food or a coffee. They don't realize the time the call comes through to someone actually being available to go up for that cup of coffee is 17 minutes. 17 minutes of time that wasn't there. So when we start adding up all those little increments, before you know it, you're sitting with the time equals value and your return of investment becomes time-based. So we use time and labor as main return of investment conversation. How much is your time worth? How much is your labor force's time worth? How much is your time as a business owner's time worth? And when you use that return of investment conversation, I think it's just very simple. You need to reduce your overheads to increase your profitability, and technology is there to do that for you.
Yeah, great. And as far as the intangible side of it, so the service experience and that type of thing, is there a way for venues and operators to be able to calculate that as part of the metrics?
I would say in my experience, yes, we've been working with the robots now going on 2 years. Some of our robots have better social following than the restaurants do. Again, people have a very simple need. I wouldn't say it's suitable for all restaurants, but definitely if you've got a scenario where you've got a customer who expects a plate of food at a specific time, waiting endless amount of time for a simple meal that they've actually paid for, versus, hey, this is a robot or an ordering app or something that's going to come quickly. We've got a younger generation of guests now. They want things faster. They want things almost instantaneously. So we've got to meet our delivery needs to that. So intangible. I mean, again, we've got the social medias to a lot of these robots out in the market, and they're picking up a lot of traction, and guests seem to be liking it. The older generation can sometimes be a little bit reserved. However, we have placed a few in aged care facilities and put really cute voices on them. So there are benefits all around.
Like, I'd like to see that. Camden, what are your thoughts on measuring ROI for this type of thing?
Yeah, I agree very strongly with Ramona. I think that the tangible benefits are often, something that everyone's, looking at and aware of in terms of, your overarching labor costs, your cost of goods sold, etc. But it's those intangible benefits that I think are sometimes more crucial to look at and are a key question to ask. As an example, just to put some numbers and some context behind it, and if you haven't gathered already, I'm particularly passionate about staff experience in the hospitality space. But we had one of our clients that actually over a period of 12 months went out and quantified those intangible benefits and actually worked out what was the cost of their staff turnover rate and the lost productivity as part of the offboarding phase, then the hiring costs, and then the reduced productivity as part of the training phase. And it was interesting to see that they actually quantified that it was costing about $8 million per year in that kind of lost productivity time as a result of their staff turnover rate. And so even an incremental shift for them, improving their staff kind of turnover by kind of 10-15% was a kind of $1 million sort of saving for them. So definitely something that I would recommend people taking the time to do is quantifying those intangible assets. What's a really positive staff experience actually gaining, or what is a high staff turnover rate actually taking away from your business?
Absolutely. All right, thanks for that, everyone. I just wanted to remind the attendees, we're capturing questions at the moment for our Q&A that's going to come up in about 15 minutes. So by all means, ask any and everything that you might want to know there. We've got 3 experts on some arguably very diverse fields, so now's the time to get some free answers out of them. So the next question that we're moving on to is around the post-COVID adaptability. We've talked a little bit about how mature we are in the global market. How to measure ROI on technology investments, which I think is becoming increasingly important as people are adopting these technologies more, and then how to make the most of that data. I'd be interested to hear from the panelists how we think priorities for restaurants have shifted in the post-COVID era, and what influence we think those priorities shifting has had on how they adopt and utilize technology. So I think for this one, we might go back to Camden.
Yeah, thanks, Jordan. So I think for this, like, we can pull out a number of elements from kind of some previous comments, but I think overall what COVID resulted in was that it was that adapt or die mentality that kind of both Ramona and Assaf mentioned, that flexibility and adaptability was kind of key to surviving that period. If you're a fine dining restaurant switching to running online cooking classes and delivering the ingredients or things like that, you kind of saw all of these different ways that these businesses adapted to kind of survive that period. And I think kind of some of the things that have then kind of come out from that, and obviously we had those massive kind of staffing shortages as well, as we kind of had immigration restrictions and a whole heap of kind of workers leaving the country in that period as well. So there's a lot of adaptation, a lot of flexibility, and it's been really refreshing to see that theme continue as well. We haven't kind of gone back to our pre-COVID norm, but yeah, it's been really refreshing to see a lot of venues recognize that, hey, this is something we need to keep this going. We need to continue to adapt. We need to continue to be flexible. We need to continue to kind of, prioritize staff, make sure that we've got a good working environment for them, etc. And technology has been key to that. Whether it's kind of different platforms that you've used to deliver, those classes or the food or that have improved the staff experience, the robotics that Ramona has talked about as well. So I think it's all of that kind of tied in together, and just kind of making staff aware and teams and venues aware that like technology is not here to replace anyone. What it's here to replace is all of those kind of data entry, kind of very kind of replicable tasks that no one really wants to be doing day in, day out anyway. And what the technology and robotics, etc., allows us is to kind of I guess bring out the best parts of what it is to be a human, is that kind of, we interact with the guests, we provide that kind of higher service level, etc. And so really that's kind of where that whole kind of technology post-COVID is going, is kind of removing all those kind of mundane tasks, and just allowing people to to stretch themselves and excel at what they're good at.
Yeah, removing those repetitive, mundane tasks and keeping in mind that the current robot stacks do not have opposable thumbs. Ironically, restaurant service is still going to be on the list of demand skills going forward, because people want that interaction and the guest experience. So we're just removing the parts that are non-profitable and creating a really great solution for businesses. So keeping your skilled, vibrant staff, guest front facing, giving them a great service, giving them an absolute experience of your restaurant. And I think that's the most important takeaway that we can give while you're busy future-proofing your business.
And Ramona, do you think that sort of during that sort of reopening period of COVID, and now we're now, we could say post-COVID, or the COVID long tail, have you seen the sort of attitude towards this level of automation change? So different types of venues adopting your technology, or a greater number?
100%. Look, there are still political drivers that have made things complex, but I think now that all that tableau's behind us, we can get on with the business at hand and get back to the investing in business. But we've definitely seen a massive uptake, specifically over the last 6 months. There's been a huge uptake, a lot of quotes going out. There are a lot of silly players in the market, so do your homework and make sure you've got good support and structure in place. But there has definitely been an uptake. I would say more so in the hospitality industry, because labor expenses aren't going down anytime soon. In actual fact, they seem to be increasing. So we need to make sure that we meet some demands in the right spaces. And to be honest with you, the reason this technology is pushing so far forward is because the demand's there. We would not be in a business if the demand wasn't there. We use the same technology in our aged care facilities, because aged care is becoming a critical skill environment. So as long as the need is there and we are seeing the numbers tracking up, we'll see robots come into the marketplace a lot more predominantly over the next 12 to 13 months. We know from the numbers coming in through the orders, it's a reality now. And it's not just delivery robots, it's cleaning robots. And yeah, so there's a lot coming.
Excellent. I'm excited. So the last question that we have for today, that the pre-organized question, we've got quite a healthy backlog of Q&A coming through, but we want to talk about the interplay of technology. So how can different technologies in a restaurant's tech stack integrate to provide a more cohesive guest experience, sort of further to that, optimize operations? So we might start, we'll start with Assaf for that one.
Sure. Funny enough, when people are approaching us, in many cases, they're in the place where they're, switching between different technologies, if it's a POS system or a rostering or whatever it is. And what we always advise them is to find the system that integrates with the most amount of things, but not only the most amount of things, but things that actually work for your business. I think it's crucial today that data just transfer between platforms. So I know where my costs are. So I know where my yields are. So I know where I'm profitable. So I know where I can go and invest my money, right? So that's super important. Sometimes it's a costly exercise to move from a legacy platform to another, but most people see almost an immediate return on investment on those movements. Personally, in Restoke, we try to integrate this with as many platforms as we can. If you jump in, I think there's more than 30 integrations happening at any given time. One of our favorite integrations is foundU, of course, which brings data from the labor along with your sales and everything else to give you a good picture. So if I have to give you any advice, when you choose your technology, make sure that technology is open to integration, is constantly working on those integrations to provide you the information that you need without going and digging for that information. Obviously, we don't have extra labor and analysts in most food businesses to give us the big picture. We need to let technology do that for us.
Yeah, great. So, I mean, we'll jump to Ramona to sort of talk more broadly about the interplay, but just quickly on the integration that we've got. Camden, are you what proportion or how engaged are you finding customers who have got foundU who aren't integrated with other platforms versus are?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's and I think the foundU with no integrations is quickly becoming the minority as kind of the adoption of technology increases, and everyone's realizing that it's key that they have data move between their systems. And as Assaf said, hospitality groups and venues typically don't have a data analyst. They've got someone wearing multiple hats, covering kind of multiple roles, looking to kind of pull that data out. So yeah, the integrations is key, and like Assaf said, just making sure that whenever you're kind of vetting technology, that they've got an open API, they're open to the concept of integrations, etc. is one of the key elements.
Yep, great. And Ramona, from your perspective, how are you seeing sort of technologies integrate and the potential of integration to offer a better experience in operations?
Yeah, look, we've taken the agnostic approach to things where we don't have a problem with legacy systems. As I've said, that you don't want to reinvent your entire business to fit into these technologies. You want the technologies to fit into your business. Obviously, when there's room for improvement and it's glaring that we can see it, we would make a suggestion for a change. That's our wheelhouse. We don't come into the restaurant and say, hey, don't serve that, that's rubbish. That's your wheelhouse. But we can, from a data and from a technology perspective, guide you on that path as a trusted partner to what looks good, because we know what good looks like and we know when it works, it turns around so quickly. So layering these systems over your existing systems is very seamless from our end. I'm sure we get a lot of grey hairs and fly hair are doing it, but it's not something that's disruptive to your business necessarily, because we plug into your business. So if you have to think of triggering something plug and play, we ask for the information, and it's a case of letting us come in and guide you down that path on how to get there. So you don't have to be an IT expert, you don't have to be an AI expert, you don't have to be an expert other than in your business expert. We're the experts. Let us be those experts for you.
Yeah, great. Now, before we get on to the Q&A, I believe on the next slide we've got a bit of a demo from Ramona. Is that right? Yep.
It's more of a customer experience, because that was the question. How are people actually experiencing? This is an operator that we did a hotel installation for here in Auckland, the International Hotel. So this was the first Asia Pacific robot hotel concierge. So it is able to call a lift, call a room, do its own thing quite autonomously. But this is from a operators' experience, which I think speaks more than anything we could say. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay.
You're not sharing sound. Sorry.
Apologies, guys. We'll try that one again.
It's been a real advantage to us, not only to lift our profile among the hotels, but also just to keep the staff aware that we're trying new things, that we care about what we're doing. The staff and the guests love Harry. There's no question about that. He's become an integral part of the team. We haven't had one bad or negative or inquiring comment. Why are you doing this? Why can't we have someone that's a real person? Because that interaction happens either when the guest is ordering, or upon checkout, or on a day-to-day basis when they see Harry in the lobby and they've experienced his delivery, they will ask more questions about him. And you can see that from our online social media, and he gets a lot of mentions.
That is really cool. I haven't actually seen one of those guys in action before. Thank you for sharing that.
Welcome.
So let's go to the question. So once again, if anyone has any questions, please add it into the Q&A. We'll see if we can get through. I think some of the questions are new and some of them are recapping what we've talked about. So we'll start with the start. If each of the panelists can give me 3 things that they think are the most important things we should be using data to report on. We'll start with Camden.
Yeah, definitely. So I think from our kind of perspective, with a heavy kind of staffing focus, data points straight off the back to look at would just be comparing, venues or teams. So looking at the efficiency of those in terms of your hours and your wage cost across those, and then looking at what's working, replicating if it is, and digging into why it isn't, if it isn't. The other key things that we'll commonly see clients using data points for would be also in terms of just prioritizing staff retention efforts as well, would be looking at, their staff attendance reports and things like that. So who, for all of those extra shifts that always pop up in hospitality, who's kind of putting their hand up for those more than other staff, and who's another key data point would also be who's indicated that this is more than just a jump job for them, that, hey, look, I'm looking to actually kind of progress in this space. I'm interested in this role. I've got a training and progression plan, and I'm actually working towards that. So those would be 3 kind of key staff points from that staffing perspective.
Great. Ramona?
I have to reiterate what Camden said as well. The staffing faction is extremely relevant from a robotics perspective. Staffing is also part of it. When you've got staffing that they want to move up and you don't have the capacity to move them up because you're short-staffed, just making yourself aware that people want to progress naturally in their career. So that's very important to keep in mind. Just your costs in general, labor costs, operational costs, with things fluctuating from this living crisis that we're dealing with at the moment. I think being on top of your real live data dashboards is extremely important, because you can't make decisions on what you cannot see. So to me, operational costs are extremely important.
Great. Assaf?
Yeah, that's all on point. Another thing I would say from our insights is to start targeting where we see money leakage in operation, where it comes to labor, when it comes to cost of goods. A lot of the time we see the high level numbers, and they may be good sometimes, but there's always leakages, and we should always find them. And sometimes they mean a few $100s a week for the bottom line, and sometimes with our experience, even a few thousands of dollars a week of bottom line. So start to identify where that happens in your business would be crucial for success.
Great. All right. So moving on to the next question, I think, Ramona, this is obviously one that we'll start with you. What are some of the ethical concerns related to the use of robots and AI in the hospitality industry? And I'll extend that by saying how are you currently addressing those, or how do you think we should be addressing those?
Yeah, we don't abuse the robots in any shape or form. Sorry.
Is that protection against a future uprising, or
Absolutely,
is it just in case?
absolutely. All of our
Yep.
productions are, no robot was harmed in this production.
Good.
Ethical questions. I think people have a misconception with AI as far as, it's out in the World Wide Web. These are closed systems. This is not technology running rampant on the internet. These are closed networks within your network, within our network. So from a security perspective, it's not that people are sitting there looking at your computer screen or your robot through the camera eyes. These are closed circuits. They're not something that, is just going crazy. As far as the ethical usage of it, I think that comes down to, are we stealing jobs with the robot technology? I'm of the faith that robots are coming. We need them for two reasons. We don't have enough youngsters coming out of school who want to take up low-paying jobs. So unless we're going to charge an absolute fortune for food and services, we're going to end up in a scenario where we have to reduce costs. Do I believe there is an ethical need there? To date, we have not replaced a single human being with our technology. We have allowed our clients to increase their productivity using the Michael Porter principle, so increasing productivity with decreased costs and retraining their staff. So that's been a very positive experience for us. We thought we were going to see this massive exodus, but because of the amount of staff shortages currently out there, we're seeing people just retraining their higher valued staff and using the robot to replace their mundane tasks. So that's my experience of it. It might be a naive perspective, but I'm quite happy with it. I hope that
I'll add to that, Ramona, that the more technology businesses are using within their organization, we see a better curve of growth, right? So if I can implement my technology in the kitchen, and if I can implement my technology in the accounting, anywhere else, I'm enabling myself to grow and create more jobs eventually, right?
Absolutely.
Those bigger businesses that know how to read the numbers and using it are definitely growing at a larger rate, which is helping the economy. So the thought that the AI is going to replace us all, maybe it will replace a few lawyers. Nobody will be sad about that. But, in general, we're probably just clearing space for more stuff and more innovation and growth of economy. So hug it as much as you can and be ethical when it comes to AI. I think it's a philosophical question that is not relevant for this conversation. Like you mentioned, Ramona, it's more about understanding the closed system and the data that we're looking at, but nothing more than that.
Look, and the reality of it, I mean, we brought up ChatGPT being deployed 12 months ago. I think ChatGPT level 4 is now 5 IQ points away from being as smart as Albert Einstein. Realistically, people aren't as smart as Albert Einstein, so we actually have very little to worry about in that department. So hospitality is an environment where creativity and customer care is more critical, because your customers want experiences. A robot that's going to say, hello, thank you for coming, is not customer experience. But if you can get someone, a robot that puts in the tip fire constantly while you're busy, making creative blender, and your guests are having an amazing experience, being entertained, and those nuances, the risks are very low in this industry. It's just taking away those mundane tasks, those repetitive, mundane tasks.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've seen the Microsoft Excel example come up a lot, particularly over the last couple of months. But everyone sort of thought Microsoft Excel was going to destroy jobs for accountants, and now none of them can live without it because it took away them having to pull out a calculator and punch in what this is over here. So very exciting. So we've got 10 minutes left, so we're going to skip through a couple of the questions. I think what we're going to jump onto is we've got a question from John. How long should it take for a tech investment to yield a positive ROI? Camden.
Yeah, look, I think from our perspective, almost instantly, once you've got it up and running, you should start to see benefits straight away. In terms of from a data perspective, obviously there's going to be kind of a bit of a lag time where you're kind of compiling that data and being able to compare it against your previous data set. But really, if you've identified kind of, those tangible or intangible areas where you can look to improve, you'll see those improvements straight away once that tech investment's in place and up and running.
Great. Assaf?
I agree with that 100%. Yep. And I think there's another question here as to which technologies should we implement first. So to Camden's point, right? Like which technologies should I go for? I think first of all, I identify where the pains are, right? And then go for those pain points first. If it's labor, go for labor. If it's your cogs, go for cogs, and track them from that point onwards. Give it a month or two until you've completely implemented and see the difference, right? So if technology does not provide it for you, you probably chose the wrong one. But essentially, because we're able to scale our solution, we're not consultancies, right? So we're giving you out of the box solution. You can make a return on investment within literally no time, and normally it's time times 100 your investment at least.
Great. We've got another one here. Should government be incentivizing more technology adoption? I think the answer is yes, but if anyone else wants to elaborate on that.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in on that one. I think it's just the key with that one is just having a little bit of a search around, because there are a lot of grants going, and just looking into the detail of that grant as well. And I'll give one quick example. So in Queensland at the moment, there's some HR support grants for small business. And as a headline, you go, that's HR, it's a consultant, etc. But if you dig into what that grant allows for, it includes new technology investments that support the HR function. So that would just be my recommendation, is there is lots of grants out there in every state and at the federal level for small business. Just have a Google, have a search on and kind of see what's out there and what each grant actually entails. Read a little bit into what you can actually use that grant for.
And Camden, if I'm correct, HR includes payroll, recruitment, and a number of other things that actually covers the whole HRIS experience. So
yeah,
agreed with Camden.
Right.
In Singapore, there's a massive incentive of the government. Basically, if a startup qualifies, right, it's on the list, it's on the government list. And I think the return is now 70% on investment for those businesses, and it's straight up, right? So you pay up front, you get the money, and it's really, really easy for those businesses to find the solution they're looking for. I think there should be an effort in our governments to make it a lot clearer than what it is. Like you mentioned, Camden, if I have to go and look for it for hours, and which questions am I asking to which answers that I'm looking for, it's always a bit of a tension there. So a lot of businesses are just giving up. So to the point of the questions, I think the government should do more. I'm not sure what's available out there.
Great. And I think we've got time for one more question, and it's a fun one. What role do we see virtual and augmented reality playing in the hospitality industry in the future? We'll start with Ramona on that one.
Well, if people are not having to do mundane tasks, they can go out more. No, look, the reality of it is, I'm always back to the scenario of how much of your time is spent doing non-profitable activity. I use hairdressers and doctors as an example. Let's use chefs in this scenario. If you're a chef and you're in a restaurant and you're not making meals, you're worrying about social media or payroll or HR issues, and you're not cooking great meals for staff and making cocktails, you're reducing where your funds come in from. So if you're a business owner and you're doing 80 other things that aren't making you money, you're wasting your time from a profitability possibility, which is what we were mentioning about, watching those financial bleeds. If Augmented, can come in and just remove your social media, for example, or your accounts payable or your HR issues, and you can gain back that time to actually higher productivity, you'll thank us. I can assure you, it's very simple. If someone walks into my business and says, "Hey, here's 40% of your time back," it's the one thing I can't get back. So I always use the metric for return of investment. What is my time worth? What is my staff time worth? How do I make more money? That's how I do it. I use the technology we have available to reduce those overheads. So I'm for it. And I think that the future is bright in this particular environment, specifically that social media. Our consumers are becoming smarter. They want to engage on social media. They want to be on the Twitterverse or the Metaverse or whichever verse they're on. And when we start looking at that, and I'm at fault. I don't go and eat at a restaurant until I've looked at their reputation online. And if the comments are negative or there isn't something really great said about them, I don't waste my time. I move on to the next one. So that's my personal peeve, but I could be biased in that department.
I know as a sort of developer of that front of house software, I look forward to a future where the maitre d' is waving their arms around like in Minority Report to be able to organize their dining room. All right, great. So I think we've wound up out of time now. I wanted to say, first of all, thank you very much to our panelists for joining us today. We know you've taken time out to help us out and sort of talk to some of our audience about the issues affecting them. So thank you, Camden, Assaf, and Ramona.
Pleasure.
And
Thank you, Jordan.
Everyone that attended, will be sending out a survey at the end of the session. It'd be great to get your feedback, and we'll obviously be in touch very soon.
Thank you so much for your time, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.